Our second presenter is Alma Esperanza via Loma. She is a fifth-year transfer student majoring in sociology and Latin American and Latino studies and minoring in history of art and visual culture. As the CLRC's undergraduate intern, she helped build the CLRC archive, which is now housed at the University Library. She also conducted surveys and in-depth interviews as part of No Place Like Home, a study of the affordable housing crisis in Santa Cruz County, sponsored by UC Santa Cruz's Center for Labor Studies. Alma was born in Huejotitan, a small town in Jalisco, Mexico. Because she was born with a cleft palate, she had difficulty speaking. Her teachers treated her as if she was mentally impaired and refused to teach her how to read. So she learned how to read at home from her mother. In addition to working to overcome this speech impediment, Alma learned English after migrating to the US. And she comes to us from El Camino El Camino College in LA. And this fall, she'll enroll in the master's program in urban and regional planning back in LA at UCLA, and she will continue to develop her project on the impact of the current affordable housing crisis on Latinx in Los Angeles. For this project, she's already conducted one-on-one interviews with 45 people. Alma is also an avid photographer and filmmaker. She's made many videos for the CLRC, and the photos that you'll see in her presentation were taken by her. Her presentation opens with a clip from a video that she made with Agustina, one of her research participants. Working at the intersection of the social sciences, humanities, and arts, her research aims to transform not only academic disciplines, but society. It's my honor and pleasure to present to you Alma Villa.
Tenemos creo que 11 años tenemos aquí ya viviendo.
¿A usted algún día le gustaría tener su casa propia?
Bueno, ¿quién no quisiera? Pero pues yo creo que yo ya no voy a tener casa propia, que si acaso serían los hijos, porque pues uno ya que, yo ya estoy viejita, ya no voy a tener casa propia, ¿eh? Pero ya si los hijos compran, pues ya sería otra cosa.
¿Algo más que le gustaría agregar o algo más que le gustaría comentar sobre Los Ángeles, sobre vivir en Los Ángeles?
No, pues yo me siento gusto en Los Ángeles, o sea, en este país, porque aquí tengo casi todo. Yo aquí me voy al médico, aquí está toda mi vida y pues ya yo pienso que, ¿cómo se llama? Para irme a otro lugar no me voy a sentir tan a gusto como lo he tenido aquí todo. Y pues aquí están mis hijos y pues ¿qué más puedo hacer? Tener un hogar es de mi familia. Un hogar es donde está toda tu familia y pues sientes que tienes alguien, ¿verdad? Eso es el hogar de una familia. Y nada, pues estoy feliz, estoy contenta de tener una familia.
Hi everybody, so I'm going to start my presentation. Home is not a house, but a space where we can feel happy, in peace and safe. Let's start a 47-year-old Latinx who has been living in Los Angeles for 23 years. Her short yet powerful statement impacted my research about precarious housing by prompting me to rethink home, the power of places, and memory. I began my research from the position that housing, like health and education, is a right. And if housing is a right, then it's a right for all, irrespective of age, race, religion, sexual orientation, national origin, or citizenship status. Before I continue, I would like to share with you all some important terms in Spanish and English. Oh, sorry. So she's Esther. And something that I really like about this picture is, if you can see, in the she's using her restroom path as her garden, her little garden. So yeah. So the definitions are housing precarity, unwanted mobility, and Latinx. And housing precarity is housing that is subject to chronic adversity and risk with no sense of security or stability. While unwanted mobility is the coerced, undesired, and coerced displacement from homes, communities, and countries of origin. And Latinx are used as a gender-neutral term to refer to people from Latin American countries. And here is the version in Spanish para las personas que hablan en español. I conducted 45 interviews with Latinx living in South Central, Southeast, and East Los Angeles to study the effects of the urban affordable housing crisis of Latinx. So this is the places where I conducted my interviews. This is Southeast LA, East Los Angeles, South Central, and Southeast. So I'm especially concerned by the impact on that crisis on undocumented Latinx and how my research participants create home under precarious housing conditions. Previous studies have shown that the housing crisis includes excessive housing as evictions and residential segregation. However, few scholars take into account citizenship status. That is, whether one is a US citizen, legal resident, or undocumented migrant. Therefore, as a Latinx, I became motivated to conduct research on how the housing crisis affects Latinx, because I wanted to understand how citizenship status, along with low wages and unwanted mobility, shape the housing experiences of Latinx. My findings indicate that citizenship doesn't necessarily protect Latinx communities from precarious housing because they are still subject to racial discrimination. My data also showed that low wages create unwanted mobility for Latinx households. In this regard, they experience overcrowdedness, food insecurity, and unwanted mobility. Correspondingly, it demonstrates that unwanted mobility impacts Latinx well-being, causing them generational trauma and vulnerability. Nevertheless, Latinx who have undocumented status are even more vulnerable to precarious housing. They are disproportionately affected by violent evictions, housing fraud, work exploitation, and wage theft. In most of the cases, they didn't report any violation of their rights as human, renters, or as workers, because their status made them vulnerable to detention and deportation. Listening to compelling stories like Agustina's and Esther helped me to understand that regardless of experiencing violent evictions, abusive landlords, overcrowdedness, and excessive rentals, Latinx make sense of home. I would like to share some pictures with you all on my research of what home means to my participants. These pictures show that for them, home is not a material place, but a space where they can create memories along with their loved ones and grow as human beings. This is some of the pictures that I took, and I'm grateful with my participants to share with me the meaning of home. That's one of the special ones for me. Housing is fundamental to maintaining a healthy and equitable society. It shouldn't be treated as a market commodity, rather as a necessity and as a human right. Therefore, we must understand that the precarious housing conditions that low-income Latinx are experiencing in Los Angeles isn't an isolated occurrence. It is happening everywhere, especially here in Santa Cruz, the only less affordable metro area for renters. My study, my study demonstrates and insists that it's necessary for the federal, state, and local governments to create comprehensive programs like affordable housing based on the income of working class families and not exclude undocumented communities. Pathways to homeownership and citizenship, as well as opportunities for decent employment and a living wage, must also be expanded and implemented. All this can be done while still allowing people to create their own sense of home. Having a place to call home is everyone's right. Muchas gracias. Thank you.